Back. This is lesson 24, another brief lesson. Again, we're going to continue with the theme of challenges within democracies, and today the topic is media. After this lesson, you should be able to better understand the important role that media plays within democracies and how corporate ownership of the media can be seen as a threat to democracy. So to begin with, democracy has many pillars. Many key architectural stones that together ensure that democracy is viable. One of those pillars is the fifth estate, the media. It's meant to be a watchdog. That if something is sour in politics, the media can sound the alarm and get the public's attention so that the government can be held accountable. An independent media, therefore, is a key instrument of accountability. That's why most dictators have a state-organized media presence. But what if instead of having a government monopoly on media, and therefore having a media that becomes the loudspeaker of government, what if we have a corporate monopoly on media, and therefore the media becomes a loudspeaker for corporations? So one of the first considerations we have is who owns the media? It's no surprise to you that we have some conglomerates that have tremendous cartel-like control over the media. Look at Disney. Look at how they control not only ABC, but they control Marvel, they control ESPN, they control A&E. Look at NBC. Look at CBS and Time Warner. We have these big conglomerates that you may not recognize just how many subsidiaries they own. And you may be thinking that you're getting many different viewpoints in the media that you're filtering the news of the day through. But you may be only getting one or two voices because of the amount of concentration of ownership. This is further illustrated in this. We see that 90% of what we read, watch, or listen to is controlled by 6 media giants. If the majority of Americans and Canadians rely upon the media to filter the stories coming from government, we should be concerned when we are only listening to 6 individuals. 6 individuals that represent common interests. So the idea of media convergence, media concentration are ideas coming from Social 10. You may remember seeing them in the textbook. There's some link to a Prezi there on media as well. The link that I have on media, the Prezi, is going to go into that discussion we've looked at previously about the media being a watchdog. But what if it becomes an attack dog or a lapdog of corporate interests? Here's a cartoon that looks at the media and newspapers being a pillar for democracy, and the cartoon is suggesting that that pillar has been compromised. Here we have, again, pillars of democracy. Now the difference between this one and this one is this one, democracy is going to crumble. This one, democracy is being held up because you have a free press. This is promoting the media as doing its job as the fifth estate. This one, media is not ensuring accountability of government. Watchdog journalism, what is it? 10 noteworthy moments in U.S. investigative journalism. Here's a link to some amazing investigative journalism, moments like Watergate, when it's the media that holds the government accountable or informs the government that something is rotten. So Ida Tarbell profiles John D. Rockefeller and the Standard Oil Company, and because she does this, it forces the government to respond. It forces Teddy Roosevelt to respond with some of that antitrust legislation. And Tarbell would be an example of one of those muckrakers. Upton Sinclair exposing those conditions in the meatpacking plants of Chicago. We've talked about the jungle in previous lessons. This is the idea of muckraking. This is what we need the media to, this is the role we need the media to be performing. But it's less likely that the media would be questioning government policies like an anti-communist witch hunt if the media becomes concentrated in the hands of 5 or 6 corporations, each of which have deep connections with the two main political parties. During the Vietnam War, we had many journalists questioning America's role in Vietnam and America's interpretation of the accomplishments in Vietnam, including the My Lai massacre of 1969 and the attempted government cover-up of that. So we have events like Watergate where the media is able to change citizens' perception of government and create, in that case, a regime change because of the Watergate scandal. Nixon will resign. All right, so just an article that you might want to take a little bit more time and take a look at. Now, Edward Snowden would be an example of a current active global whistleblower watchdog performing that role of questioning the state. And when Edward Snowden becomes aware of the state misstepping, Edward Snowden is comfortable because he's not a lapdog of a corporation, he's comfortable reporting that news. Here we can see how the role of the media has played in inspiring people to get to vote. So each time that there's a new form of media presented, newspaper, radio, television, internet, it inspires a new spike in voter turnout. But unfortunately, with each spike, there comes eventual apathy as people only become excited about that new form of media, and that new form of media is only trustworthy for a limited time. So here we are, rise of newspapers. Oh man, now people, they can vote because they know what the issues are and they're excited about it. Newspapers become compromised and people stop really reading them. Well, let's watch radio or listen to radio. And then they start voting again and it becomes compromised. What about TV? But then they become apathetic to the stories because they can't believe in TV because they get cynical of the corporations that control it. And now the hope is that digital media, because it's less concentrated, more able to be non-mainstream, may be able to re-inspire democracy within America. There is less of a chance of one master's voice being portrayed through the internet. It's harder for one corporation to control all of those things that you've been reading online. But the new fear in this digital age is fake news, because online it seems like people can report anything they wish and there's no fact checking and there are people gullible enough to believe it. All right, so it does connect in with the lobby groups that we looked at last time, because it should be the media that holds lobby groups and the government responsible, but sometimes media becomes its own lobby group because media and corporations and politicians are all working for the same agenda. That was a quick look at the function of media in a democracy.